now what I'm going to do is use the filters to clean up the sound a little bit. So I'm going to use split mode for this. Now if you remember, split mode, as you can see on the little diagram alongside, means oscillator 1 is processed by filter 1 and oscillator 2 by filter 2. So I'm actually going to leave oscillator 1 alone because that's creating our transient, and I may as well turn the filter off as we're not using it, and then I'll turn on filter 2 and just turn off oscillator 1 for now as well. So now we've just got oscillator 2 on our sub, and I'll turn off the sub as well. So yeah, all we can hear now is oscillator 2, and what I'd like to do is roll off some of these lower frequencies, as we'll be getting a bit of overlap with these two oscillators, even though I've pitched this one an octave higher. So just to clean it up just a little bit, I'll take this filter up to maybe around, somewhere around 140 or so. But I'm going to boost the resonance so it doesn't become too weak. Probably around about there, so here's the difference it makes. You can see it's really got rid of a lot of these bassy frequencies here. On its own, it definitely sounds a lot better without the filter, but with oscillator 1 added on top, it just cleans it up that little bit. I'll take them back out though, and the other thing I'll do is apply some modulation to this filter. So instead of getting oscillator 2 kind of sounding immediately, we get a bit more of a kind of fade in, and I'll do this with frequencies rather than with level. So what I want is for this cutoff of the filter to kind of jump up and down a bit. I'm going to use envelope 2 for this because this is the short one, if you remember, that's modulating the oscillator 1 position. So if I just adjust our filter frequency to make sure it appears at the bottom here, and then turn up the envelope 2 amount, so that's an extreme setting. You can hear this cutoff is jumping up really high and sliding down, so the sound's really fading in because a lot of the bass has been filtered out, and you can see on here we get those frequencies sweeping in. So I don't want it that extreme, so I'll bring it down. Maybe around there. I think that's probably about right. So you can hear the difference without the modulation and with. And then you can hear again with oscillator 1 and the sub brought back in. Just going to turn up the level of oscillator 2 a bit. So it kind of really gives a bit of space for oscillator 1. You can hear if I take filter 2 out of the equation. So again, maybe I've done it a little bit too extremely and taken out a bit too much of the bass there. So you might want to just doing it so you can hear it nice and easily, but you can play around with these settings. Another thing you might want to do is to change the filter type to one of the analog modeling ones, like maybe the state variable. does change the sound quite a lot though, so it's really depends on how distorted and noisy you want to make the bass. What you might like to do is to turn the drive up quite high and then bring down the actual oscillator level. So yeah, some nice techniques there for taking the sound of your oscillators a bit further by adding this sub-bass layer, which, don't forget, is going to both filters in split mode. So even though we're rolling off the bottom of filter 2 here, it's not affecting the sub, which is also going to filter 1. So yeah, adding the bass frequencies with the sub, and then using filter 2 in split mode to roll off the bottom of oscillator 2, whilst also giving that filter sweep, which gives a bit more space to oscillator 1 and creates a bit of extra movement.